I saw. So smile when you can, when you can.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Justice Now. My name is Leah Jones, and I am the Education and Outreach Coordinator here at Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. Before we get started today, I'd like to do a brief land acknowledgement. While we're all on video call and many of us are joining from different places, we want to remind ourselves that we gather on the unceded land of the indigenous peoples. I am joining in from so called Richmond, Virginia, and I'm currently located on the land of the Powhatan and Chickahominy peoples. If you are unsure of whose land you are on and you would like to find out, you can always visit native-land.ca to find out. Thank you all for tuning in again now for the fourth Friday of General Assembly updates. Joining me today in these updates once again is Kadesh. Thanks for being on again as usual. We are grateful to have you on. How are you today?
Hi, Leah, and hi, everybody. I'm doing good, and it's great to be back on the show again. I know it's been a long week of PA, so we have a lot of updates.
Yes, exactly. It's been a long week and voting in the committees, and a few of our priority bills are finally heard by their respective committees. So let's go ahead and dive into the updates, and I'll start with the bills that we're leading on this session. So last week, HB 664, patroned by Delegate Corey. This is one of our utilities bills. It was referred to the Committee on Commerce and Energy in the House. The bill was meant to expand the existing delay from service termination for serious medical conditions by requiring all water, gas, and publicly owned electric utilities to delay disconnection for non-payment for customers with serious medical condition certification, and allow households or primary residents were 65 and older, 12 months and under to delay disconnection by 60 days following the notice of service termination for non-payment. However, just this week on Tuesday, HB 664 was actually heard in its committee. And unfortunately, when there was no action on this bill when it was heard, this means that the bill wasn't voted on and it will not be heard again in the General Assembly. So, um, although HB 664 is out now, we are hopeful for our other utilities bill, HB 1054. That still hasn't been heard yet. HB 1054 is our other utilities bill, and it was referred to the Committee on Public Safety, and it establishes a date and temperature-based limitations on disconnections. HB 1054 also prohibits a utility from disconnecting customers when there are orders of state emergency and prohibits water, gas, and electric utilities from assessing disconnection, reconnection, and late fees to customers who do lose utilities due to late bills or for non payment. So, just expanding protections during states of emergency and crisis. This bill, like I said, has not been heard yet, but we are expecting it to be heard and voted on by the committee next Tuesday, likely. So please, those of you at home, help us spread the word and help us advocate for our bill. Leave a comment. We'll obviously talk more about actions that you can take later in the episode, but that is an important flag. And then lastly, our comprehensive planning bill. This is a Healthy Community Strategy Bill, HB 1267, sponsored by Delegate Simons. It's in the House also, but it's referred to the Committee on Counties, Cities, and Towns. This bill asks that Virginia should allow localities, both cities and counties, to incorporate an increased focus on community health into their regular comprehensive planning processes and efforts. And if a locality decides that it would like to improve community health and environmental quality, the General Assembly should empower them to do so, right? So with this bill, we're still waiting for it to be heard, but we have a feeling that it will be on the docket to be voted on soon, possibly next week. Those are all of the updates we have for the bills that we're leading on this session. Kadesh, do you want to say more about the other bills that we're supporting this session? Any updates on
Sure.
those?
Yeah, so we are watching out for a lot of what it feels like mountainous of bills because as GA is, it's always fast and there are always bills coming. So these are just a couple of the bills that we're supporting, just not all of them. And if you'd like to know all of them, please make sure you're visiting our updating document. So moving on to updates on the bills that we're supporting and standing in the position of support for is HB 1288. This week, HB 1288, the Ratepayer Protection Act, sponsored by Delegate Hudson, was voted on. This bill enables the State Corporation Commission to set a utility's future rates for its customers based on the future cost of service. It would have empowered regulators to set reasonable rates for customers. In other words, this bill allows utility regulators to do their jobs to protect customers from unnecessary high electricity bills or overcharges, like we've seen with the Dominion 1.2 billion overcharge. And understanding that Virginia is facing one of the highest electricity bills in the country, because Virginia laws allow Dominion Energy to basically regulate itself. Affordable electricity bills are critical to fighting the climate crisis. However, 75% of the Virginia households spend an affordable percentage of their monthly income on energy expenses. This bill was intended to remedy some of that issue for a lot of Virginia families and small businesses. However, this past Tuesday, in the same meeting that our utility bill was heard by the committee, I believe, number 2 on Commerce and Energy, subcommittee number 1 in Commerce and Energy, the committee has decided to recommend continuing this legislation in 2023 by a voice vote. This means that this bill will not be heard again until next year. And another bill that we're supporting and that made it through the GA is HB 71. HB 71 is our utility monopoly political contribution ban, and it was heard by the House Privileges and Elections Subcommittee number 2, and the committee recommended laying the bill on the table. 8 yeses and 0 no's, which basically means it won't be heard again this session. And I believe, Leah, you're going to do a couple more updates on our other side of the aisle, our opposing bills.
Yes, definitely have a couple updates on those as well. We have, as you can tell, the bills that we've been leading on and supporting on. Things have been a little discouraging as of late, but we're keeping hope. And we're advocating against the bills that I'm about to share with you all now. So some updates on a few of these opposing bills. We're watching out for SB 81, which is sponsored by Senator Stanley, SB 657, which is sponsored by Senator Stewart. Those bills are up next week. Also, HB 1204, which is sponsored by Delegate Kilgore, and HB 1261, which is sponsored by Delegate Bloxham, are also bills we're watching out for in the House. These bills, both of them weaken, well, really all of them weaken the Environmental Citizen Board's crucial authority. The Air Pollution Control Board and the State Water Board provide important oversight of permitting facilities that produce emissions and develop related regulations to maintain the quality of our air and our water. So it's really important that we keep an eye out on all of these bills that I mentioned. They're kind of all grouped together. So it's important to make sure that we're abreast of all of these and staying up to date with where these bills are moving to throughout the General Assembly. These bills are referred to the Committee on Agriculture, Chesapeake, and Natural Resources in their respective houses. Unfortunately, this week, HB 1261 was in the Natural Resources Subcommittee, and they recommended reporting with amendments, so it made it through with 4 votes in favor and 2 against. This is definitely bad news, so we need to keep advocating for these bills, like I mentioned, or against these bills, as I mentioned earlier, as it moves to the full committee next week to be heard by the full committee. The last bill I'd like to flag that we're also opposing, we've been mentioning it now on the updates every week because it's a really big deal. So this is Bill HB 5. It's sponsored by Delegate Moorfield. It's in the House and was referred to the Committee on Agriculture, Chesapeake, and Natural Resources as well. This bill, it establishes the Flood Relief Fund that takes away funding for the Community Flood Preparedness Fund to help environmental justice communities. The Flood Relief Fund will be funded by reducing the funds from the Community Flood Preparedness Fund, which is 45% of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, RGGI, as it's known as, funds. So it reduces the 45% that it was at to 40%, and allocating the 5% to the fund. So it's taking money away from those communities who are vulnerable environmental justice communities who need the money the most, right? So this is definitely a bill we are keeping at the top of our radar to make sure we are there to speak against and oppose this bill when the time comes. So the bill still hasn't been heard yet, but we know that the committee will meet on a Monday whenever the chair decides to call a meeting. So this does mean that it could happen kind of all of a sudden. So we have to make sure that we are staying locked in and aware of when the chair decides to call a meeting. And we can be prepared when this bill comes to the forefront. So be on the lookout for action alerts on opposing HB 5. I think Kades has some resources as usual to share with you all at home to help when you're advocating for our supporting bills and for the bills that are against the bills that we're opposing this session. So
Yeah, sure. Thanks. And speaking of how you can all take action, we have created a one-stop shop for you all to really easily comment and submit comments, especially on the House bills. And we have divided it by our opposing and supporting bills. So if you should be in the comments soon, but if you click on our J 2022 action toolkit, which you can also find on our webpage, you can definitely go ahead and find all the right links for where the bills are as far as committees go, and where you can submit the comments. And we have embedded talking points for all of the bills that we've shared today. We have made sure that not only are you able to understand the bills, but really talk about the bills in a more comfortable way by embedding those talking points. So please make sure you're checking out our action toolkit and taking the action that is there. We also have I believe, a big ask in support of one of the utility bills that are still hanging on by a thread this session. And HB 1054, we have started a faith leader sign-on letter for HB 1054 and HB 664. And unfortunately, HB 664 was, I guess, had no action. It wasn't even voted against, but it had no action this session. We really want to champion 1054 to the fullest. And although the intent of the sign-on letter is to support both bills, it is now being used to support one of the remaining bills, which is 1054. So please make sure you're signing on your faith community as a faith leader. And if you're not a faith leader, please ask your faith leader to sign on in support of utility protections, especially because we understand that a lot of faith communities historically have been in help of families in need in terms of utility bills and rent relief. This really will bring that voice to the front of the General Assembly as we're sharing. Why this bill matters and why we need this bill. So I'm putting it in the comments. Please make sure you're signing on. That's one of the simplest asks that you can do as you're watching this show today. But if you want to know what else you can do, sign up to VIPL and make sure you're staying tuned in to what we have going on, so you can get the action alerts when bills are in committee, so that you are only contacted when your legislator is about to look at a bill. As well as really know what is going on with the bills in terms of really detailed information will be sent out via our e-news, since we only have 15 minutes on this show. So please make sure you're signing up and staying tuned. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Leah?
No, I don't think I have anything to add. You pretty much covered everything, Kades. Thanks so much for sharing all those awesome resources. I hope you all are able to take actions with us, sign on to the letters, make comments, and participate in the GA session along with us. Thanks so much for tuning in this week, and make sure to return next week for more updates. We still have quite a few bills to be heard, especially relating to our priority bills, the bills that we're leading on. So please be on the lookout for our action alerts, sign up, and everything else that all the other information that we'll be sharing with you all throughout the session. So yes, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye.